Welcome, Exiles, to my 3.11 Arcanist Brand Ball Lightning Necromancer video build guide. Before we jump into today's video, I wanted to take a quick moment to say thank you to all of the positive comments, feedback, and new subscribers from my previous video. If you enjoy odd builds like this, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. I hope to put out a handful of these builds every league, just to help keep things off meta and fresh and fun. So without further ado, let's get into today's subject. I'll start off with my favorite thing about this build, and that is you get great clear. Mapping feels fantastic, but you do not have to sacrifice single target to get it. There is no gem swapping, and there are no two skill setups. We just use the same skill for clear as we do for single target. Now you may be asking yourself, brands? Ball lightning? What do either of these have to do with the Necromancer ascendancy? And I had two words for you. Corpse Pact. This build works by using the Eye of Innocence amulet to drive cast when damage taken loops to automatically consume through as many as 52 corpses per second. Now we only need to consume at least 25 corpses per second to max out the 200% cast speed bonus from Corpse Pact. The build is set up so that every time our level 1 cast when damage taken setups trigger, we will consume 13 corpses. That's 9 corpses from Volatile Dead, 3 from Detonate Dead, and 1 from Cremation. So every time that cast when damage taken pops off, we get a 26% boost to our cast speed that lasts for 4 seconds, and that will stack up to a total of 200% increased cast speed. As long as we are triggering those cast when damage taken setups at least twice a second, we will be maxing out the bonus from Corpse Pact. Now, cast when damage taken can be triggered up to 4 times a second, so at max damage intake, we can actually get to a Corpse Pact maximum in only 2 seconds. If we look at the gem text on Arcanist Brand, we see increases and reductions to cast speed also apply to this skill's activation frequency. This will allow us to reach an activation frequency up to 7 casts per second. And since these are all individual casts of ball lightning, they will shotgun enemies, resulting in over 70 hits per second against a single target. So even though we only have a single damage support on ball lightning, we can stack flat damage and gem levels to get high DPS numbers. Now this build can feel a little squishy as it is hard to get good life numbers on it, but with Bone Offering and Glancing Blows we do get to max attack block and almost max spell block with over 400 life gained on block. Combining that with the 2 Ngamuhu Sign rings, we get 30 life back every time we ignite an enemy. We lose 30 from the amulet that is offset by 1 Ngamuhu Sign, and the second ring actually lets us gain 30 life on every ignite. With the incredibly high cast speeds that we reach as well, a second wind flame dash might as well just be a 4 charge dash for us. Its instant use feels great and allows us to manually dodge and stay alive fairly well. I have taken this through the entire endgame all the way through Awakener 8, including Uber Elder, Shaper Elder, all the Guardians, and all of the Conquerors, and the build has performed wonderfully. I have provided a path of building link in the video description, complete with all of the notes on this build, example gear, gem setups, everything you could need to get this build going, except for a specific leveling guide. That is not done yet. I haven't actually leveled this build yet, but once that gets done, I will probably add that in. But without further ado with the video, let's go ahead and jump into the gear, skill gem setups, and the tree. Alright everybody, we are going to go off script for this one. I just want to ad-lib my way through this and be lazy and not have to edit a lot. So I apologize for all the uhs and ums that may come along with going through all the gear and gems and skill tree here. But let's get at it. First thing we'll look at, the amulet, what makes everything work. The Eye of Innocence amulet is what we use to take fire damage to drive our cast when damage taken chains. Only 2 notes on this item. Number 1, you want to get yourself some turbulent catalysts. These enhance elemental damage modifiers and will increase the fire damage taken mod from 100 to 120, which makes us 20% more efficient at driving those cast when damage taken loops. The other note is I have arcane swiftness allocated. That is not necessary and I don't recommend it. It just happens to be what I had allocated on the amulet and I didn't feel like changing it. I recommend allocating Command of Steel. It's the same amount of damage. You still get 75% increased damage from this node, but it's much cheaper. It only costs an opalescent and a couple lower tiers, so it's much easier and cheaper to allocate than the 2 silvers that Arcane Swiftness costs. So yeah, don't take my lead on that one. Now, after the amulet, we'll move on to the rings. Just grab 2 Ngamuhu signs. You have 2 different ways you can go with this. If you do turbulent catalysts on these as well, you can increase the fire damage to spells as well as the chance to ignite. You also have the option of putting fertile catalysts on here that will recover, or that will increase the life recovery when you ignite, so you can get that from 30 up to 36 if you feel like you need a little bit of life back. I personally prefer the damage and the extra chance to ignite, but that one's entirely up to you. Grab 2 of those. One of them will completely offset the damage you take from the amulet, and the other one is just straight extra life when you ignite an enemy. Definitely helps keep you alive and just keeps your health pool full as long as you're doing damage. The next piece of gear we're going to look at, the gloves. This is the item that really helps the build have some damage. The most important mod on this gloves is the Slower Projectiles mod. Anyone that's played Ball Lightning before knows the slower the projectile is moving, the longer the orb stays within range of the enemy, and the more hits you can get off. So the slower the orb moves, the higher your DPS is. By getting this in gloves with the faster casting mod, it just amplifies the damage to a point where it just feels awesome. The Insanity mod on these gloves, the 16% more attack and cast speed, that is not necessary. I just wanted to craft an endgame piece of gear, and there is a semi-deterministic way to make gloves like this using Harvest. I do have a short guide for that in the Path of Building notes for this build that'll show you how to do that. But if you're putting this together, just grab yourself a regular pair of Slower Projectile faster casting gloves. If you can, get them with an open prefix so you can do the +1 level AoE gems craft. That is also a good boost of damage since Ball Lightning is an AoE gem. Moving on to the next neat piece of gear, this bone helmet. Now, the 24% increased Ball Lightning area of effect enchantment, that is important for helping get to that 90% AoE threshold to help get that extra hit in on Ball Lightning. The Bone Helmet, the minions deal 20% increased damage. Since we do take spiritual aid, that does apply to our damage as well, so that is something to consider. It's very hard to find a level 85 bone helmet with that enchantment on it, so don't feel like you have to go that route, but it is better if you can find it. Now, the nearby enemies have -9 to lightning resistance. You can deterministically craft that using Harvest, as lightning resistance and nearby enemies minus lightning resistance. Those are the only 2 lightning suffixes that a Crusader helm can roll. So if you have lightning resistance on the helm already, no open prefixes, and at least 1 open suffix, and you hit that with an add lightning mod, you will hit that nearby enemies have -9 to lightning resistance. Now, you do have to have an item level of at least 85 to hit that mod, so make sure you have that. But it is not hard to craft a helm like this, and it's great for the build. I also put the level of AoE gems craft on this as well. All the gems that we put in the helm are AoE gems, so we do get a boost for that, but also the increased area of effect, anywhere we can get it, just helps. With the body armor, the easy choice here is Impulsa. We don't need a 6-link to make this build work, so a 5-link will work just fine. So it doesn't feel bad shelling out some money for Impulsa because you don't have to shell out a ton to get a 6-link. 5-link crafts are basically free this league, so this is not a hard item to get. Don't let the skin transfer fool you. I just really like the ivory tower. This is an Impulsa. But yeah, the explode on kill just makes the clear insane on this build. An Impulsa is not required, it's just great. You can just roll with a Tabula if you have one in early maps, or just any life resistance armor. Don't feel like you need to go out and get an Impulsa if you can't afford it, but I do recommend grabbing one. With the boots and the belt, you're really just looking for your standard life, resistance, move speed, tailwind if you can get it, and just life and resistances on the belt. We do want to look for a Stygian Vise. Abyss Jewels are a great way to stack flat damage, and this just gives us an extra slot to put an Abyss Jewel in. With the wands, really the only things we're looking for specifically: cursed enemies with level 10 conductivity on hit, and then any kind of boost to lightning damage that we can get. So this is just a simple wand with flat lightning damage to spells, curse on hit with conductivity, and then just a crafted spell damage mod. The other wand, we get a trigger wand, where we will have to have at least one wand that you can craft the trigger socketed spell on, but also mods like +1 level of lightning spell gems. That one's great too. The other one you want to look for is this level 18 spell cascade mod. Now the mod itself, or the spell cascade itself, really doesn't do a whole lot for you, but that comes with increased area of effect, which again helps us get to that 90% threshold. With flasks, I prefer just having a life flask where we get some bleed. A utility flask, I find quartz great because I love phasing and just love being able to run directly through packs. Of course, a Quicksilver is going to be good, and that Zeri's Promise is good. It's just extra bonus chaos damage. And a Cinder Swallow is great for this build because the enemies ignited by you during flask effect take 10% increased damage. Well, we're igniting everything, so this is a great flask to have. If you can get your resistances right, a Wise Oak is a good choice as well. Mine are not at the moment, so I'm not running one. So that is also a choice that you can consider. Now with the gems, we're going to start with the main one, Arcanist Brand. If you can get a level 21, great. Quality does do good for this gem. You can get up to a 10% increased activation frequency, which is what this build is built around, which is just spitting out as many of these ball lightnings as we can. So get yourself that. Get a ball lightning gem. If you can get a level 21, every extra level we can get is more flat damage, which is great for this build. We're also going to link that with Swift brand support. So 65% less attached duration and 40% less detached duration. We don't play this like a normal brand build. You basically just cast a brand on every pack and just spam them on the bosses. So that 65% more activation frequency might as well be a 65% more damage multiplier for us. And then the last gem slot that we have left, I recommend just Controlled Destruction support. The 44% more spell damage is great with a little 10% increased. I can't really think of anything else here that would be better than the Controlled Destruction for us. Our main cast when damage taken link, this will go in the chest because it's the only space left you have for a 5-link, but we are going to throw out cast when damage taken, spell cascade support, and then Desecrate, so we'll get all 10 corpses on a single cast there. Volatile Dead, we'll do 3 corpses 3 times, so there's 9 more corpses there, or 9 corpses that we are consuming. The Detonate Dead will consume a corpse 3 times from the spell cascade, so there's another 3 corpses there. If you do have a 6th link available, my recommendation is Culling Strike. This will help just get bosses because your Volatile Deads will be out all over the place. So as soon as they hit 10%, you'll get them. If your ignites don't feel good or you feel like you're not getting enough, you can put Firestorm in for the 6th link. This does make the screen pretty busy, so it can get pretty hectic if you do go that route. But Culling Strike, that's a solid way to go. In our other cast when damage taken setup, we are just going to do Unearth with greater multiple projectiles. That'll get us 5 more corpses, and then Cremation will consume a corpse, which is good for us, but also with the GMP, this is going to be throwing out projectiles everywhere, just adding to the number of ignites and hits that we get, just continually driving. So that's just a great bonus for us there. In the helm, our little buffs, Val Righteous Fire, is 29% more spell damage for 4 seconds whenever you need it, so just throw that in there and pop it. Herald of Thunder, obvious choice. Wrath, another obvious choice. And I like to run with Enduring Cry, because it is, enduring charges on demand, but also a nice little 2,000 life boost if you ever find yourself in need of a quick heal. You can just pop that and you're good to go. In our Trigger Wand, Wave of Conviction to apply lightning exposure, Blade Blast to trigger Unnerve, and Bone Offering to get us to max block and give us our life on block recovery. So putting all 3 of these in the Trigger Wand, they'll just automatically go as you play. The last thing that we have is just a movement skill. Again, I like Flame Dash with Second Wind, and you can tag that with a level 7 Arcane Surge support. Not only just for the 13% more spell damage, but it also gives cast speed, which is, again, as described, good for this build. Now for the jewels, the Abyss jewels on this one, you're just looking for flat lightning damage to spells, flat while dual wielding, life, and whatever, any kind of secondary mod you would want. That just feels good for the build. I think that covers all the gems, that covers all the gear. Let's take a quick look at the tree. So this is the tree. We kind of come out of the witch, we hit life, we hit lightning, we hit more life, we hit more lightning up here. You have a gem slot. We get some spell block here. This mana goes nicely with increased spell damage from this node. We don't really need the mana, but this all goes well together. Since we are taking Spiritual Aid, these minion damage nodes do apply to us, so they're a good way to root through. We do go Elemental Overload. We don't build this as a crit build. It's just too hard to get crit. The points just aren't there on the tree. We just don't have that many available. But we're hitting so frequently, you need to invest not at all in a crit chance to have pretty much 100% uptime on Elemental Overload. It's just going to happen. Coming down here, we grab the Scion Life Wheel because life is great, but this Ash, Frost, and Storm cluster that we can pick up along the way does have 10% chance to ignite, which is great for the build as well. Coming up this way, you can do clusters if you want to. I recommend going for a lightning damage cluster with Supercharge. POB says that Supercharge is almost a 22% more damage node for the build. So I highly recommend just trying to find something with Supercharge on it. No matter what the other ones are, this is the big one that you want to go for. I really haven't done much testing with medium clusters. I like brand loyalty. The 5% increased damage for each brand is pretty cool. The attachment range is also good for clear. And then I also go with Holy Conquest. Now, the reason I like Holy Conquest is because who doesn't like movement speed? I've already shown you the importance of cast speed, which is cool, but the brands attach to a new enemy each time they activate. So if you throw this on a big pack, this can cause a single brand to jump around and end up sending balls every direction, just really helping the clear out. So I have really liked using Holy Conquest. Coming this way, the Holy Fire node, this is really just 3 points here for 25% chance to ignite, 10 there, 15 there. It's just great for the build. You can come down here and get some life and chaos res. Already talked about Spiritual Aid, Divine Judgment, great node. We've got life here. These damage nodes, life nodes, damage nodes. And then the last thing to really talk about, get a Thread of Hope with a very large ring. They're not that expensive, and they save you a ton of points. So by putting the Thread of Hope here, we can go all the way over and get Rune Binder to let us put 2 brands on a single enemy, and that saves us 3 points traveling to there, but also saves us 2 points getting over down to Glancing Blows. And as a bonus, this swings by a couple free life nodes that we can pick up as well, just helping boost up the survivability of the build. So I highly recommend getting a Thread of Hope as well. Now, I don't know how long this has been running, but I am going to just kind of show you what a kind of low budget version looks like in terms of clear speed. I'm going to do a quick T16 wearing the quote-unquote budget gloves, and then I'm going to throw on a Tabula instead of the Impulsa, just so you can see what it looks like to run this build, even if you don't have some really high tier gear. So with these gloves on instead, we're going to throw the Tabula on instead, and I'll leave the... No, I'll put the Culling Strike, and we'll do a 6-link. So yeah, just with our beautiful Tabula in. And I just have a quick, just random T16 that I grabbed and popped up, and we can throw this into the map device, give it a go, and just give you a quick look at how the normal clear looks on the build. So as you can see, even without the explosions from the Impulsa, the clear is still perfectly fine, and the single target, even without the Insanity mod on the gloves, still good. You can still push this build very far without having to sink that much currency into it. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the guide. If you build this, let me know. If you have any questions, you can find me here on YouTube. I also go under the same name, TrollErgoSum, on Reddit and on Twitch. Now, I don't stream, but you can still find me there. I do watch other streamers. You can send me a private message if you want to. But yeah, happy to answer any questions, and hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks. See you guys later.